not kill me, Mr. Bond. At least, not until we've had another drink. And then, perhaps, I will give you another chance.
Oh, dear me. I'm terribly sorry. The Alfa Romeo 166. It's possibly one of the most controversially styled Italian cars of the 1990s. But is it any good? Should you care? Why? Let's find out, shall we?
Alfa Romeo? Andiamo.
Wipe away the tears from time to time, we wouldn't lie. And here we are, we'll never be the same, and on the screens of our lives flash words of good songs that we've not yet sung. And we're not worried about the future, and we're not guilty about the past. We're pressing on together. Joy that will outlast these sorrows, and it's not as if we don't have to deal with our shortcomings. It's not as if we don't have to wipe away the tears.
Welcome to another episode of True Jacket Reviews. Today we are near Coventry, and once again my friend James Coleman, rubbish mechanic, has provided me one of his beautiful cars. This is a 2002 Alfa Romeo 166 3-litre Sportronic Lusso with the famous Busso engine. So thanks, James. Thames. The Alfa Romeo 166 has something of a very interesting history. It is based on the same platform as the Lancia Kappa, although the Lancia Kappa wasn't sold in this country, and it first went into production in 1998. Models for the UK market were first released in 1999. This is a 2002 model, and they do have a few differences from the early cars, like the really annoying way that you have to pull at the bottom of the steering wheel a little tab to release the key, which I don't know why they do that, but that's what happens. And for the UK market, production ended in 2005, although Alfa Romeo 166s didn't sell particularly well in Britain. They sold about 2,000 of them in total, and so you do find these actually right away until 2010 plates, which is remarkable. There's a 57 plate one that I saw quite recently, actually. Now these are very, very rare cars, rare when they were new and rare now. According to the How Many Left.co.uk website, which really you've got to take with a pinch of salt, but it's the only information that I could find. There are less than 100 of these on the road of all types of 166. The post-facelift ones are particularly rare, and so to drive this car, which has been improved from the factory specification, is a particular joy. So thanks once again, James. Thames. The engines available in Alfa Romeo 166 are a 2-litre twin-spark engine. It's very similar to what was in the Alfa Romeo 145 Cloverleaf that I drove last November, that belongs to Richard and Viewers driving. That develops in the 166 about 155 horsepower. There were also some Busso V6 engines, that famous power plant named after Giuseppe Busso, who actually designed the engine himself. And that was first released in 1979 in a car called the Alfa 6. You don't see many of those either, to be honest. And the 166 was the last car pretty much that had it. There were a couple of contemporary Alfas, but it finished production in about 2006. There was a 2-litre version for the Italian market, was turbocharged. It was about 200 horsepower or so. There was a 2.5 that was about 185 horsepower. Then they have this amazing 3-litre one. Standard, this car generated about 220 horsepower. This has been modified a little bit, so it's a bit more than that. We've also got Bilstein Shocks in this car and other things. There was also a 3.2-litre engine toward the end of production on the facelifted models. That was the one that Jeremy Clarkson drove, if you remember that review from Top Gear in about 2004, and that generated 240 horsepower. There were also some diesels, but they weren't sold in Britain, and anyway, I can't talk about those on this channel! So now I've calmed down from talking about diesel, we can talk about some of the specification levels. The base specification of the 166 was called the TS, that stood for twin spark. Then there was the TI, there was also the Super, and the Lusso. This is a Lusso, and there was one called the Turismo too. I don't really understand the differences between all those specs, and I'm not going to go into which engine's available with which specifications, because it's very complicated. This is a Sportronic car with the automatic gearbox, which is pretty smooth actually. I really like it. The 6-speed manual was also really good. I have a little walk around of the car with a 6-speed manual gearbox on my channel too, with a 2.5 litre engine in it. It's a very interesting car to drive, because this has got, you know, modified suspension, the Bilstein Shocks and things. We've got a modified exhaust on here. We've got the brake calipers off a Maserati Quattroporte. This is a fantastic car. The ride is a little bit jiggly, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
We're going through town.
Yes.
And it does, you know, thump and bang and things over potholes, but then again, my MG3 used to thump and bang over potholes. So you can have a sports car that handles, or you can have a car that wafts along. It really depends what you prefer. So if you get onto faster roads in your Alfa Romeo 166, what's it actually like? Well, it's a front engine and front wheel drive layout, and it doesn't quite have the same handling characteristics as, say, sort of like a BMW 5 Series or a Vauxhall Omega, which are rear wheel drive, but it is still really nice, and I absolutely love it. Left here, sir?
Yes.
One of the things that I've asked Mr. Coleman, who owns this car, to talk about is some of the problems, shall we say, and peculiarities of 166, and we're going to cut away now, and he will talk you round his other 166 and show you some problem areas.
Just to point out, this is my scrap Alfa 166. I need it to keep the black one going, and this one is a bit of a basket case. They rust quite badly, and the clips break away from the sills. The heaters don't work properly, so they get very misty inside. You can't do anything about that. The front wings tend to rust quite readily. Same over the other side. This one is down to poor paint, because it was in an accident at some point, and it's just old filler coming through. And another case to point out is the rear suspension on these is very delicate. So, and a good way to test is using the old kick trick. So you get movement in the wheels like so. You know you're going to have problems with it, because it will be dancing all over the road.
So now you've been informed and educated about some of the issues with the 166, let me tell you about some more. One of the things to be aware of is that on this Busso engine, the cam belt takes, and I'm not joking, 14 hours to replace. Now that is going to cost you several £1,000s, and it does need to be done, you know, relatively often. So just bear that in mind for your budgeting if you're buying one of these cars. Also, exhaust, you can't get a standard exhaust anymore. You have to have one custom made. So, you know, virtually every 166 that you'll see on the road these days will have a custom exhaust, otherwise you can't actually run them. The tyres wear out very quickly too, and it does like nice tyres, the 166, to get the best out of them. But this car's not about sensible, practical decisions. It's not about low running costs when you're getting 21 miles per gallon driven sensibly, and you have to budget 14 hours to change the cam belt on an engine. It's about the way that this car makes you feel, and this example, in this kind of condition that it is, enthusiast owned for so many years, this car's actually done 170,000 miles, and to be honest, I don't think it feels like it has done, because it's been so carefully cared for at a specialist for a lot of its life. And you know, Mr. Coleman doesn't want to sell this car ever, and I understand why. Say you knew the second coming was round the corner, and you had one night to drive one car before that happened. What are you going to choose? why don't you choose a 166? You'll love it.
As long as it's not the 1666.
In terms of visibility in this car, it's actually quite good, and you know, you do feel quite nice being in here. It's like a sort of Versace or Armani suit, and you know, it looks very nice going on the road. I mean, you don't have to have it in black. Bear in mind that if you do have it in black, someone will think you're part of the mafia. So maybe that's not, if that's not the look you want, then go for another colour. But bear in mind though, with less than 100 of these taxed on the road, as far as we know, you're not going to have a lot of choice anyway. But I'm having an absolutely wonderful time, and I can understand why Mr. Coleman, thank you for your direction, sir, loves this car, because I think I might be borrowing this again at some point.
Welcome.
Here we are with angry
That was the happy sound of the Sportronic transmission there. This Alfa is just incredible. I know I'm sounding like I Drive a Classic, but it really is one of the most amazing cars I've ever driven. Anyway, let's have a look at the Alfa 166's more practical side now, and take a look in the boot. Oh no, not this again. As you saw, there's a little release on this particular car to get the key out of the ignition. If you want to take it out. It's a bit annoying, but there we go. The early cars don't have that. Anyway, you can pop the boot by using this button here on the key, which I've already done. And in here we find, oh, very nice. We have an Alfa Romeo toolkit, Alfa Romeo service history. We have this lovely CD changer. The boot on this car, I wouldn't say it's as big as a Vauxhall Omega. I don't think the seats fold in this car. But it's really not about practicality particularly, it's about style, it's about luxury, it's about performance. And, you know, it's really not that bad considering the capabilities of this incredible Alfa Romeo. If I step into the back, one of the cars this competed with when it was new was the Vauxhall Omega, and of course you've probably seen that review already if you've been watching Tweed Jacket reviews. There really isn't as much space in the back of here as, say, one of those Omegas or possibly the E39 5 Series BMW, but it's okay. This is Mr. Coleman's driving position actually, rather than mine. Though it's just about enough knee room for me. I'm 5'11", although my head is very close to the roof. So if you're over 6 foot tall, perhaps an Alfa 166 isn't for you to sit in the back. One of the things I love about this is, because this is an Italian car from the late 1990s effectively, we've got ashtrays just here. We've got little ashtrays just there. We've also got a slightly broken centre console, which is why this bit is in there. It should have that bit on top of it, but never mind. We won't go into that too much. We do have some nice vents in the back. That is a nice luxurious feature, and a 12-volt socket. That's very similar to a Vauxhall Omega actually, for some reason. We've also got this nice armrest. I'll do a cutaway of that as well for you. That's very nice. The leather in this car is beautiful. The other 166 that you will be seeing, which Mr. Coleman also owns, will donate its interior eventually to this car, although this is still beautiful. You've got a little compartment up there for putting something in, I don't know, box of tissues if you really want to have this as a mini cab. I don't know why you want to do that, but there we go. We've got a grab handle, which you're going to need because this car does perform particularly well, as you would have seen in the driving section. The electric rear windows, which is absolutely tiny. They are the smallest ones I think I've ever seen. A tiny little switch here, and they don't feel particularly nice, to be honest. It does feel like that would break at some stage. It's a bit like a lot of the interior of this car. It's a little bit fragile, and the parts are quite difficult to get hold of, so I won't touch that too much. This door handle, though, does feel particularly nice. Overall, you're not going to do too badly in the back of here unless you're very, very tall, but just the ambience of being in this car and the feeling that it gives you is worth one or two practicality shortcomings. One of the things you didn't see me do actually in this car is use the handbrake, and there's a reason for that. Obviously this isn't the automatic, the Sportronic as Alfa Romeo called it, and the handbrake mechanism on this car are a little bit fragile, so that's why I'm not pulling it up in the dramatic fashion I would normally do. The interior of the 166, it's a very nice place to be. Some of these switches don't feel particularly nice. This headlight control, for example, I think it's off like, I don't know, a Fiat Tipo or something like that. It doesn't feel very nice, but you know, there we go. We're in an Alfa Romeo from the 1990s and they were a little bit like this. However, some of the materials in here are beautiful, particularly the leather. The layout's quite stylish. It does have sat-nav, this car, which you'll see in a cutaway, but it's not particularly good. It wouldn't have been good back in the day. It certainly isn't good now. Another problem with the 166 is that you cannot change the radio at all. You can't change the radio in this car. You're stuck with it. You can see there's no visible way that you could actually put a different radio in here because it's integrated with a climate control system. So, you know, that's really you know, all you can do. And if you happen to lose the code or something for this, then you've really had it. It doesn't work very well. If I switch the car on, you'll see that we have these really quite nice dials and integrated control system, it says there, which is good. This car's done 170,000 miles, which is remarkable, really. You know, people say Alfas can't do high mileage. If they're properly looked after by a specialist, they really can. I find the dials very nice and clear. They remind me a bit of a sort of 1980s Ferrari, actually. The way they're laid out, obviously Ferrari and Alfa Romeo for a period were sort of the same company, so it does make sense. We've got cruise control in this particular car. The Busso engine is fitted to this, and it does make a nice noise. You will have heard plenty of that already, probably. Now, we've also got down here a very peculiar thing in that the fuel filler release is right in front of the gear lever there. It's very difficult for me to show. I will show that in a cutaway. I couldn't do a very good one personally, but you know, there we are. We've got lots of vents in here, and they are classic Italian sports car vents. Another common failure point on these is this lid on top of the dashboard, which I'm not even going to touch because, yeah, that doesn't go very well. This center console is enough for a pair of distinctive sunglasses. There's also another ashtray down here. I think that makes for about 3 at least on this car. Obviously Italian people in the 90s and 2000s liked smoking. The driving position is actually very good. An Alfa Romeo 145, you might have seen that review that I did with Matt and Furious driving back in November. That one doesn't feel as good as this. This feels like a much nicer driving position. The car does have a tape player. It's got a CD changer as well in the boot, again like the Omega. And also we have this lovely steering wheel. It looks beautiful. It's airbag equipped in this particular car, but even on the facelifted cars, which have a slightly different interior from this, there is no question of having any buttons. There's no buttons at all. The buttons are down here, so you're going to have to get used to that, and you'd have to love it. Now, the visibility in this car is more akin, I'd say, to a modern car. The nearest I could sort of say to it may be like an Alfa Romeo Giulia, you know, the one they're making at the moment. You can see the bonnet actually a little bit better than, say, a Vauxhall Omega, but it still slopes away a bit, and the beeping that you would hear on this gearbox if you put it into reverse is not to do with parking sensors. That's just the car telling you it's in reverse, which is bizarre. I don't know why it does that. There's no reason to that, but there we go. At least the hazard warning switch is nice and clearly marked in here. The overshadowed visibility is actually pretty good. It's not too bad. The rear windows there are a little small, and they're quite heavily tinted in this car, so that might affect things a little bit. However, if you're quibbling over small features like that in an Alfa 166, you're kind of really missing the point. This is a driver's car first and foremost, and a practical car second. Now, I'm afraid, viewers, that due to a lapse of my memory and the storms and everything, I did forget to bring my secret mission documents there. But if we open up the glove box, which is down here, it's quite a stretch actually, but it's actually not a bad size. I think the secret mission documents would fit in there reasonably well. That's not too much of a problem. We have got at least 4 airbags in here. We have got side airbags. They came with every 166, so I suppose at the time it would have been a relatively safe car. There is ABS and traction control as well. You might be spinning the tyres a little bit though, because this car does. Just be a little bit careful on the accelerator pedal when you're putting out junctions. One of the funny things about this car is this sort of very springy cigarette lighter. I don't know why it's like that. I don't really know, but that's the way that it is. The mirrors on this car are very nice. They're stylish and they're quite large and easy to use. The switches actually are quite logically laid out on the door. I expected, you know, them to sort of put 4 on the ceiling and maybe like 5 of them and other controls underneath the seat, but they don't. They're actually in logical place, which is good. This car has heated seats, which is fantastic. There are actually memory seats in this car too, which is even better. And they still work, which after 18 years is very good. This is the Sportronic Lusso model, and we've got everything that you could possibly want to have in a 166. We've got the heated memory seats, we've got climate control, satellite navigation, the 6-disc CD changer, cassette player of course. We've got front and rear fog lights in this car. We've got cruise control too. It's very luxurious, very wonderful, very Italian, and I love it. Right then, what do I think of the Alfa Romeo 166? Well, this styling isn't to everyone's taste, and this is a very rare car. They are difficult to work on. The interior quality isn't up to the standards of a lot of the rivals, but once you've driven this car, once you've fallen in love with it, you better get your hands on one of the few remaining survivors. Otherwise you will be missing out. Oh, dear me, I'm terribly sorry. I'd like to introduce you in a demolition deal, which involves aerial activity to install certain items of equipment.
Well, this is my Alfa 166. I've had it just over a year now. It's a very straight and clean example, so I've been after one of these for a long time. They are quite difficult to maintain. They need a lot of specialist help because it is one of the last of what I call a bonkers Alfa. But there's less than 100 on the roads now in the UK, and it's a really nice privilege to own it, and I do hope you enjoy watching the video. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. My name is Joseph Lloyd. I'm an independent vehicle consultant. I find cars for people. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to do that. Don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. If you wish me to source a car for you, I'd love to do that. My website is www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. Please use the contact me page on my website to get in touch. I've got a Facebook page as well. It's facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you.